Hello everyone and welcome back to your weekly PlayStation podcast, Talking the PS, where we round up all of your weekly PlayStation and video game news right here on youtube.com/Helix Cloud Games for your listening or viewing pleasure, or also available up there in the digital clouds. You're joining myself, Chris, this week alongside my man of many pixels, Mr. Richie. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well indeed.
Good, and we're here to talk about all of the PlayStation news because we have a great show lined up for you boys and girls out there today, talking about the PlayStation 6 has a rough time window. We'll go into that a little bit. Far Cry 6 expansions, Witcher Next Gen details, Ragnarok, God of War Ragnarok that is, being the highest selling PlayStation exclusive ever, and much, much more. But before we dive into all that, don't forget to give the video a like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you are kept in the loop with all of the great content we do here at Helix Cloud Games. Just like this very show, our Xbox show, the XPass podcast, which goes live every Monday on this channel and YouTube and podcast feeds also. And one thing I do want to point out, Richie, CloudQuest, we need to address this. YouTube royally f***ed us over on this week's CloudQuest episode. Of course, if you're a Helix Hero, one of the members of the channel, you got that up to 6 days early. It goes on our members only feed on usually a Sunday evening, afternoon, for you to enjoy at your own leisure. However, it went live on free feeds, as every week's episode does. It got on podcast services and also onto YouTube, and for whatever reason, nobody got notifications for it, and it's currently sitting at like 26 views, which is usually what it makes within the first few minutes. So if you're watching this on the Tuesday, go check out. It's available now. It's up on the channel. Go check out last week's episode of Cloud. It's a great episode. We talked about Amazon Luna and the layoffs that are happening over at the Amazon team and how it might impact it, and is it destined to follow in Google Stadia's footsteps. So it's a very timely episode. We thought, Richie, it's in with the news cycle, Amazon layoffs and Stadia imminent closure. What better time to talk about it? And evidently the algorithm or whatever the hell was going on with YouTube didn't want people to see that. They're trying to hush us, Richie, keep us quiet.
I'm at a loss. I said to Chris before we started recording, I woke up to the notification from Spotify, as I always do on a Friday, and no notification from YouTube. It's like, where's my notification for CloudQuest? And I even went in, I pulled the episode, rescheduled it, still no notification, so I have absolutely no idea.
So
it was there, it was live. I could go before I pulled the episode and rescheduled it. I went onto YouTube, went to Helix Cloud Games, went to the CloudQuest playlist, and there it was. Click the episode, it's there, it's live.
The one
no idea.
They're trying to silence us, Richie.
Yeah,
we're speaking the truth.
Yeah, apparently we can talk all sorts of shit about Stadia and Google specifically.
You mentioned Luna.
You mentioned Amazon.
And they're on, those Alexas out there listening. Beep, boop, beep. Either way, we are here, of course, to talk about a PlayStation. We are, of course, missing Rob as well, our chaotic neutral for this particular show. Just down to scheduling clashes and work-related things. I mean, I've been at a rum and gin festival all day long, so if I sound a little bit different, I may or may not still be drunk. I'm not sure. It was one of those where I was having a couple of drinks, but it doesn't really kind of hit you. I had plenty of food.
Yeah.
I haven't had a drink for probably 3+ hours now, so I feel like I'm good. But
I thought for some reason, I just thought you were going to say I haven't had a drink for about 3+ minutes.
Yeah, I'm still on it. No, but we've came back. We thought we'll record this episode. Rob will most likely be on, or you'll have probably seen Rob on XPass yesterday, so fear not. Regularly scheduled programming will resume. See, I might mix my words up. That might happen still a little bit. But either way, we are here to break down all of the PlayStation news for you fine folks this very week. Before we do get into all of the juicy bits of blue news, shout out to our two new Helix Heroes who will be sponsoring the news this week. Edward Jeffrey and Doc Holliday have joined on our membership program, just like you can below on the YouTube video by clicking join. And unless YouTube want to silence that as well, you join over 50 wonderful patrons of the channel over on the membership tier. We have bronze, silver, gold, and platinum, with various different awards, but for the bulk part, you get early access to content, stickers, badges, next to your name in the chat, and exclusive perks. And we will be looking at that in the new year as well, and jazzing up and mixing up like we always try and do with shows and content. But we do appreciate all of your patronage and your support. We couldn't do this without you, so thank you very much. Edward Jeffrey, Doc Holder, you're both Helix Heroes. Richie?
Yeah.
What have you been playing this week? I ask?
Well, I have been playing a bit of God of War, but again, as I was talking to you earlier, it's like the World Cup has kind of destroyed my momentum on that game as well. Because that's a game that I 100% needs to command your attention. So, and I also have Pokemon Violet, which is a game that absolutely does not need to command my attention that much. So I've been watching a lot of the World Cup while playing Pokemon. It seems like a nice balance. So it's only when I get like a longer stretch of time where I'll go, all right, I've got like 3-4 hours now. I can play God of War. So I haven't made anywhere near the amount of progress you have, but.
Yeah, I've finished it. I'm working towards the Platinum Trophy now. I don't think I'd finished it on last week's show. So this will probably be the first week that I've finished it. Absolutely amazing, stellar story, amazing. If you finish it, go back because there's post-game content for you to go into as well, and we'll be getting into the God of War chatter in a bit. World Cup's kind of got me distracted a little bit as well. I found myself watching like 3 games, like the whole day's worth of games in a row. Of course, this show goes live on Tuesday, so England will or will not have qualified at this point. They damn should have done. I think they need to lose at least 4-0 to even lose,
Wales.
to not go through. So yeah, so shout out to all of our Welsh listeners and viewers, and of course English as well, and shout out to our friends stateside as well for putting up a good game the other day in the 0-0 draw. Would have liked a bit more of an exciting game, if I'm honest, with some goals and such, but a point was fair for both teams, I feel, on that showing. But World Cup ticking over. Of course, FIFA's out there if you want to dabble in that as well. But God of War very much has most people's attention right now, which we'll find out as we get into the news stories. So why delay? Richie, if you could do Rob's job, the Rob job, and introduce us to the
properly prepared PlayStation perusing points, aka I haven't even had a drink. The news.
The news. You did know you were going to be doing the news, though.
I did, but I don't know. I just slipped my words, just stumbled out my mouth.
Out of all of our introductions, do you think this one is the hardest? Because of the letter P. I feel like the P.
The properly prepared PlayStation perusing points.
There's like, it gets...
Special Stadia story segment. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think XPass is a bit... The X sound doesn't have as good like cadence to it. It doesn't flow as well, so I think that might be slightly harder.
Yeah. I'm trying to think which letters, where you have to like roll your letters a little bit. Sometimes harder to say. Like an S. Roll your S.
Actually, this one's quite hard because you're wary about like the popping sounds with the microphone. Oh, yeah? So you're trying to soften your P's a bit.
So you're not
saying so you don't get these like harsh
repaired PlayStation perusing points. Sorry.
My apologies to anyone listening to this on headphones. That's going to be horrible.
Who doesn't love a good pop? Right, let's get into the news. As I mentioned before, brought to you by our wonderful new Helix heroes, Edward Jeffrey and Doc Holliday. Story number 1. We won't lull too much in this one, but it's in the news because it was always going to be in the news when it comes up. The PlayStation 6 has been discussed officially by PlayStation, and that comes off the back of some confidential documents. So Sony does not expect its next generation PlayStation to arrive until at least 2027, a confidential document has suggested. The partially redacted document was released public today as part of the UK's ongoing in-depth investigation from the Competition and Markets Authority, the CMA, into the Microsoft proposed $68 billion Activision and Blizzard buyout, which Sony are, of course, fighting to defend and not make go through. But within the document, it does discuss generations and how important Call of Duty is to the success of said generations. And at the time of writing the document, it expected to lose access to the franchise Call of Duty by 2027. Sony goes on to state that by the time it launches its next generation of PlayStation console, it will have lost access to Call of Duty and other Activisions, meaning that the PlayStation 6 is no doubt scheduled or on track for around about the 2027 time. Of course, as I said, Richie, there's not really much of a story here. Everybody who's everybody knows that the inevitability of a next PlayStation console will be coming in the future. We know by traditional game console cycles, 7 to 8 year tends to be the average. So, yeah, no surprise here. But inevitably, if you're going to talk about the PlayStation 6 in any official capacity, it's going to get the rumor mill talking about more future tech, and that's just because tech
Yeah.
enthusiasm. Like the people who are into the tech, they always want to know what's on the horizon.
The thing is, 2027 seems early for the PlayStation 6, in my opinion, because I think console generations are getting longer.
Yeah,
It's getting harder to develop. It's getting
costly.
Components getting more expensive, and you're kind of suffering a bit more of diminishing returns.
Yeah,
Like,
because there's not those leaps as well, especially.
yeah, you're not seeing like the big. If you look at from like the Super Nintendo to Nintendo 64, going from 2D to 3D, and then PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 2 to PlayStation 3, you saw these quite monumental leaps.
Mm-hmm.
But I think from PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5, well, there's definitely a step up. I don't think it's to the same sort of extent. So I think we might see the PlayStation 5 stick around for quite a while.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest part of this news is it's just Sony going, look, Microsoft are kind of unilaterally deciding how long Call of Duty will be on PlayStation, and they're worried that they'll time it so that Call of Duty won't be on the PlayStation 6 to hammer the initial release window.
Yeah.
Because inevitably the next Xbox will come out around about the same time as the PlayStation 6. If one's got Call of Duty, one doesn't. People looking to buy new consoles, that's what Sony are worried about.
Yeah, and again, it's a legitimate worry, and I can completely see from a business standpoint why. Of course, to say in 6 to 7 years' time, Call of Duty will still be as relevant, like we just don't know. But then, if you look back over the last decade of the franchise, it's still the top performing game outside of a Grand Theft Auto or a Red Dead launch across the board. So in my mind, I keep expecting Call of Duty to like waver or falter some year, and it just still ends up just hitting gangbuster numbers year in, year out. How do they do it?
I already kind of thought they had, but there again, I sometimes forget that we are not the average gamer. The average gamer doesn't probably listen to gaming podcasts, doesn't keep up with the gaming news. The average gamer, because there's probably does buy like Call of Duty, not thinking too much about it. Just once a year they buy the new Call of Duty because they enjoy playing Call of Duty, and that's it. Well, they might buy other games, but there's a lot of gamers out there who will just buy Call of Duty just as a matter of habit. Like every year, I pretty much buy FIFA as a matter of habit, basically. It's just one of them games. So I think it's reasonable in 5 years' time to expect Call of Duty to be still up there. I mean, Modern Warfare 2 has just landed like the highest, wasn't it the highest release window for Call of Duty ever?
Yeah, absolutely. Smashed it.
So it's not even that it doesn't even like, there's this assumption I think sometimes we can make where we feel like Call of Duty's stagnating. It's actually still growing.
Yeah. I do think there's something to be said about just the sheer amount of money and the turnaround that every single year. Like, obviously, there's 3 studios. A lot of people just see Call of Duty and think it's the same people who make it every year when it's actually 3 totally different development studios rotating on like a 3-year cycle. But the polish is inevitably there. And I can see why Sony would have a problem with that, because it would be a big loss. There's no taking away from that. I just don't know if they have legal precedents to block this move. But it's interesting time and time again how
stuff like Sony are making the case to try and force Microsoft into, like, if in 2027, that's 5 years from now. So if Microsoft's saying, we'll guarantee non-exclusivity for 5 years, Sony are now trying to probably basically push that further and go, well, it's reasonable. Maybe the PS6 comes out in 5 years' time. Are you just kind of trying to cut our knees out from under us at that time?
Yeah.
Is this like a plan? You're planning ahead, going. So maybe they're trying to push, going, you know what? You need to give us 10 years, so the PlayStation 6 will still definitely be out. They're just trying to fight. They'll fight the case in any way they can to maintain, because Call of Duty sells so much. It's so profitable for every company involved. Like, Sony will want to keep it on their platform.
Yeah,
so they will do everything they can to make that happen.
Yeah, it's a big one to fight over, and it is that kind of added irony that they focus so much on Call of Duty, and yet the next Xbox could also launch with Crash Bandicoot as a platform mascot exclusively, or Spyro, like all these like old Sony IP in a lot of people's eyes, launching as a out of the box inclusive.
Call of Duty is one of them games, like a FIFA, like a Madden, where people sometimes buy a console just for that game.
Yeah.
And every new iteration, they just buy that game.
Absolutely.
Something like Crash Bandicoot, it it's much beloved, but it's not to that level. It's not. Not many people are buying a console just for Crash Bandicoot.
No.
They're buying a console, and they'll buy Crash Bandicoot because it's there. It might help them decide which one to go for, but that's not the entire reason. So it's these kind of Call of Duty and like Madden and FIFA. I think have elevated themselves into their own level, like in terms of gaming, where there's just nothing that really comes close.
Yeah. So if we both probably think there's also going to be a PS5 Pro at some point. I'd guesstimate around about the 2025 mark. Give them another 2 years and then start promoting.
Mid-generation refresh.
Yeah, like another 2 years, and then that coming Christmas we start to see a push for probably a slimmer model. Is probably the big key thing.
I think we might see a slimmer model first, but I think if they get a slimmer model out, I don't think there's any real timeline on that, where I think with a Pro version, you want that to be a mid-generation refresh, so everyone who's already got a standard PlayStation, they are also your customers, where the slim model, if you've already got PS5, you're not going to buy a slim model. Most people aren't just going to buy a slim model just for the sake of it, because you're expecting probably the same performance there.
Yeah.
Probably just looks a bit nicer.
Yeah, just not as massive and garish in your living room. So to round that out then, Richie, what would you... I mean, it's early doors, but just quick bullet points. What would you expect out of a PlayStation 6? Like anything major that you could really think they could improve upon? Or is this back to the beginning of the argument when you said it's so it's minute to change now?
I expect a better PlayStation 5. The PS5 is basically just a better PlayStation 4. The biggest innovations are things like the storage going from like hard drives to SSD.
Yeah.
They're not, unless there's like a massive shift in like storage medium going forward, and it's unlikely to actually revolutionize gaming beyond more than what we've already seen in this last generational shift.
Yeah.
And even then, that's largely just load times that you're seeing better on.
I was a firm believer that even by like the end of the PlayStation 4 cycle, I didn't feel like the PlayStation 4 had ran its course yet. Like if they said the PlayStation 5 wasn't going to come out for another further year, I think that would, and we've seen that actually with the games like God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, they are all playable on the PS4 in a like perfectly good state. Like I've not seen scathing reviews coming out like Cyberpunk saying it does not run on the PS4. God of War Ragnarok might have longer loading times, and it might not look as shiny, but it's playable in all its competencies.
It comes down to sales numbers, though. Like a console, there's only so many people out there in the world who will buy one. Mm-hmm. Once you start seeing that leveling off in your sales, I kind of have to go, right, maybe it's time for the next one.
Oh yeah, 100%, like saturation point and such. But in terms of just...
In terms of the hardware,
in the PS5, like next time round, a faster SSD maybe, more internal storage, and then whatever the current range of TVs graphically are capable of, that's the output. But other than that, there's not really much more I can ask.
I don't consider my PS4 to be retired by any stretch of the imagination at the moment, because there is games that if there's a game I want to play that doesn't have better performance on PS5, like I was playing Trails of Cold Steel for a while, that I could have played that on my PS5, but it'd be no different than playing my PS4. So I just installed it on my PS4.
Yeah.
So it's my PS4 is still an active console in my life.
I haven't touched mine in a while. Kind of feel bad.
I'm touching mine right now.
All right, weirdo.
It's on my desk. Like, it's where it lives now.
It's where it lives. But
next to my Xbox.
Yeah, let us know in the comments below what you would like to see out of a PlayStation 5. PlayStation 6, I guess, as well. Or a PlayStation 5 Slims / and
more RGB.
Or have we just... I mean, actually, you know what? A PlayStation where I could customize what the lights do on the front would be cool. But again, we're talking
translucent controller.
We're talking like
bring it back.
Small changes at this point. So, PlayStation 6, it's inevitable. Do you think they're going to call it a PS6? Or do you think they'll reboot just PlayStation again?
Nah, I think they'll just keep
PS6.
PS6.
It's like the big reveal of the PS5 logo.
They're onto a good thing. Like why? Like everyone knows what PlayStation is. Microsoft, as great as the consoles are, have got this weird branding way. It's like it feels all over the place. PlayStation, it's nice and clean. You got PS1, 2, 3, 4, 5. the next one will be 6.
Yeah. I mean, if Apple can go up to like 13, 14 Pro Max,
just keep going.
Whatever.
Like, just keep going.
Everyone knows. Most people know how to count. So just keep it going. Just keep it going. I agree. Speaking of keeping things going, story number 2 of the week. Out of kind of nowhere in a weird way, Far Cry 6, the well-revered Far Cry 6 game, more of the same. Ubisoft have unveiled a official expansion pack for Far Cry 6 with a live stream that's going to be going up later this week. So you might know the news. I don't actually know what the date is of it, but essentially they're going to return to the well for Far Cry 6, and they've announced an expansion called Far Cry 6 Lost Between Worlds, a Ubisoft original, will be arriving next year. We don't know any more information about it. We do know there was the leaked Far Cry 6 Game of the Year edition, which was supposed to come with all of the DLC Season Pass content mixed in.
Despite not winning a Game of the Year?
It got one, remember? It was from one particular website, but I can't remember what it was. It was one no one had ever heard of. Yeah, maybe. And traditionally, we know there is a Ubisoft game that tends to come out about a year and a half to 2 years after. We've seen it with Blood Dragon originally, then we had Far Cry Primal, we've had New Dawn recently, and they are all usually just retellings of the same map with a different skin over it. So for those who played Primal, it was just a prehistoric skin. For those who played New Dawn, it was a nuclear fallout skin on it, and enjoyable in their own right, completely. Standalone games. Correction, the live stream is coming November 26th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So if you want to watch it, check it out. November 29th, so late. Actually, when does this go? Oh, today. So if you're listening to this on the morning, it's out later today. If you're listening to this on the night, it's already available now. So go check it out. Far Cry 6. Richie, you've dabbled in Far Cry games.
Yeah.
You know what Far Cry 6 is about. What would you like to see from a Far Cry 6 expansion? Or a brand new game, whatever this Lost Between Worlds is going to be?
I don't know, to be honest, because Far Cry has never fully gripped me. I've enjoyed what I've played. But you know when you play a game, like you sit down for an evening, you play and go, having good fun, fun here. Then the next day you get up and go, I'm done with that.
Anyway,
it's kind of what Far Cry has always been for me. It's never like sunk its teeth into me like Pokemon God of War. Is like at the moment, it's like I'm looking at my calendar and looking at like and the exercise, like right, when can I fit playing these games in?
I just heard you say Pokemon God of War and thought of like one mix mash game of like
Pokemon of War.
What would Kratos be in Ash Ketchum's world, living his like going around capturing things?
Oh, he's a fire and ice type.
Oh, so you're thinking Kratos is the Pokemon?
Yeah,
I thought he was going to be like a trainer you would fight.
No, he's going to be a Pokemon.
Fire and ice. That would be quite a tricky one to come across. You could picture his moves already, couldn't you? Like he's got Blades of Chaos, Axe Thrower. Yeah, his special would have to be like Rage, but. Does he hurt himself with Rage? Because they're always the shittest Pokemon moves when it's like Kratos hurt himself with a broken heart, maybe, for the loss of his DFA. But back to Far Cry. I really enjoyed Far Cry 6. It was more of the same, which is what I wanted at that time. The Season Pass was utter mess from previous Season Passes. The whole... what's it called? Roguelite thing where you basically got sent out into a world with a previous villain and you just lost all your shit when you died and you went back and repeated. It was like, it felt very uncreative for what Far Cry can do. Whereas you think Far Cry 5, we had the arcade mode where you could just make whatever maps you wanted to. It had it had the zombie missions, it had the Martian missions, it had the Vietnamese missions. They did so much creative stuff with the season content for 5, and 6 just felt very haphazard and lazy. So I'm hoping this is going to be like a true follow-up, whether it is a standalone title, because it still says Far Cry 6, which traditionally they don't give it a number. They give it its whole new name. So what I would hope they lean into is maybe what we experienced in the Stranger Things stuff. Like,
it's
go
a small,
wacky,
like,
go
vignette.
zany. And it's actually a shame, now I'm seeing like Lost Between Worlds, they couldn't just make a Stranger Things. Imagine a standalone Far Cry game that was the map of Far Cry 6, but flipped into the upside down from Stranger Things, where everything's goopy and there's like giant demigorgons about and red lightning in the sky. That would be cool. But
yeah,
alas.
the proof of concept already exists.
Yeah.
Like, we've played it on the channel. Go watch it. It's like, that would be amazing.
It was literally just a free Stranger Things tie-in with the season. And I'm like, if you get that out starting next year, if Stranger Things does come out next year, the final season on Netflix, it's like that perfect Witcher pairing that Netflix enjoy.
But going by the key art we've seen for Lost Between Worlds, I'm kind of getting like Doctor Strange Dark Dimension kind of vibes here. Like, you know, like a world between realms and stuff, like where like things go pretty weird and like mystical.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be some kind of portals. Like you're
All
gonna
your
move
listeners, there's a lot
around.
of purple crystals on there, yeah. So I don't think it is going to be a reskin of the world. I think this might be more akin to a Stranger Things thing where you had this, like, you went through like a portal and like here's a new area to explore a bit.
Yeah. Maybe they just use all of the Stranger Things assets and change them from red to purple. And then don't use the branding of Stranger Things anywhere.
it could be like a kind of like almost like one of the Legend of Zelda's Link to the Past. Like I think it was Link to the Past. There was like the light world and the dark world. So the dark world is almost like a full reskin of like Hyrule, but there's certain portals around the world where you could like pop in between them. So it might be that sort of vibe. So you're like in the normal overworld map for Far Cry 6, but he's random like gateways where you step through and go into this other alternative universe of the same world. So that might be so rather than just reskinning the whole map, they might just be reskinning areas of it.
Yeah, the little Twitter clip that they put out just shows like a purple crystal almost in the shape of a heart. Then it shatters into the key art that we've seen, but it doesn't really give anything away. But thankfully, we don't have to wait too long. In fact, if you're watching this again after the fact on Tuesday, you already know. So I'll already know. Richie will already know. The world will already know. So Far Cry 6 doesn't seem to be finished. And this seems to be a trend Ubisoft are doing at the moment with their continued ongoing support. We mentioned last week with other content, I think Ragnarok is due this coming month, December. Its final Valhalla free content for Eivor and his story. That game will have been out on market longer than 2 years when that final story comes out. So for a single player game to get free content support, not just like patch update, but actual new content for free 2 years after the fact is terrific. And Valhalla's the best selling Assassin's Creed games to date. So it clearly works for them. And I wonder if they've seen the sales of Far Cry 6 and thought it did well for us. Can we, again, just utilize assets and market this all over again alongside this Game of the Year edition with something intriguing? So here it is, this Tuesday, or today, in fact. So Far Cry 6, will it pull me back in? That's the thing, though. Had a good time with it, still own it, got the platinum. We'll have to see. Speaking of next-gen updates, I might be distracted by the new story we covered on last week's show, which was the Witcher 3 Next Gen. CD Projekt Red hosted a live stream this past week detailing the long-promised next-gen update for The Witcher 3, coming to PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, S, and PC. It will arrive December 14th, and the studio finally shared its enhancements it's going to bring. As far as technical improvements go, for PC players, they're going to see the biggest change with the likes of ray tracing, DLSS, and FSR, whatever the hell that means, alongside a selection of new Ultra Plus graphic options, boosting background character, level of detail, and more. Do you know what they mean, Richie? DLSS and FSR?
I'm trying to remember what they are. Basically, it's one of them's NVIDIA, one of them's AMD, but they're basically two equivalents of the same tech that helps like boost the resolution without pushing the GPU as hard,
right.
using like AI.
So it's going to look better though.
So basically the AI cores in your graphics card that are kind of used for things like ray tracing, they've been used to kind of like effectively create extra frames in the game to smooth things out so you can get higher frame rates and higher graphical fidelity, like less performance. So it has been shown to be like fantastic like tech.
Fair enough. If you're not playing on PC, if you are in fact playing it on console, which many of us probably already own the game, remember this is a free update for people who currently purchased Witcher 3. I purchased the Game of the Year edition of Witcher 3 like 7 Black Fridays ago. That's how long ago it was when this game came out. Like I remember, like Richie, I think I've lived in this house for 7 years, so I bought that game when I used to work in my previous job role. Like, that's how long ago it was, because I remember being in, like, at work and ordering on my phone mid-shift, and it's a very distinct thing, because I remember going, do I buy it? And it was like 25 quid or something. It wasn't as cheap as it is today, but that's how long ago I've owned that game, and I've still not got around to playing it. So now, nearly a decade later, the next-gen patch comes. For console players, you will, of course, take advantage of the various improvements such as performance and quality modes, providing a choice between better visuals at 30 frames per second or prioritized 60 FPS. Expect full console specifics in the run-up to release, so they've been a bit distant on that still. Witcher 3's next-gen update also will incorporate more visual enhancements. However, they've also used this as an opportunity to introduce new features and quality of life improvements. There's a new photo mode, for instance, giving players control of things like field of vision, tilt, depth and field, the usual photo mode shit. Missing in God of War Ragnarok, I just want to point out, I've had to take many, many screenshots tactically.
I expect we've seen a few Sony games where it's come out later with like a later patch update.
It's a shame it wasn't day one though, because I took so many gorgeous things to see, but I digress. Additionally, there is going to be a new optional in-game camera, bringing the viewpoint much closer to the action while on foot or on horseback. So it's kind of like when you're playing a racing game and you can have your different distances to the car, it seems. There are also new map filters, enabling explorers to hide the likes of question mark icons. Mini-maps can specifically be hidden during exploration. You can use the latter options, such as the mini-map can be temporarily disabled at the press of a button too, but it will auto-appear inside of combat, that kind of jazz. There's also improvements to controls. They've added DualSense feedback for those playing it on PlayStation, which is awesome because the DualSense controller is fantastic. Larger hoods if you want more of those. Different tweaks to subtitles, polishing, blah, blah, blah. But in essence, it's nothing that we didn't expect. What I'm surprised at is they've added content from the Witcher TV show, Henry Cavill's Netflix Witcher series, including the horrible armor. The black armor with the wee like vein things. Can you remember it from the show? That looked that everyone criticized. They've added that in for some reason, and a bunch of other things. I'm looking forward to it, Richie. This may consume me over Christmas. Like after I watch this clip through the week, and I'm obviously rounding out on God of War now. Essentially, as I wind down God of War, in the next 2 weeks, this comes out. Could be my time finally. After buying this game on Black Friday 7 years ago, now is the time to jump into The Witcher 3. Are you going back?
Tempted. I will at some point. I don't know if I will over Christmas. It depends how long it takes me to get through God of War and Pokemon and what else grips my attention at the time. But I will probably install it just in case.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Of course, we have to install things now. That is a frustration that is happening. Of course, I never finished Cyberpunk, so I want to go back to one of these big games. But then I was thinking, do I play The Last of Us in the run-up to the TV show? And then it's a whole thing, Richie. And then I've got life in the way as well, of course. But December 14th, enjoy all of your Witcher glory, everybody. The Netflix spin-off thing must start this month. I think I checked it last time this news came up, but the Witcher spin-off is in December, definitely. So now we're almost in December, Richie. We can officially start celebrating Christmas next week. We'll have our trees. I'll have my tree up. I don't know about you.
I don't know. Yeah, I didn't like my tree last year, so I think I'm going to chuck it out and have to get another one. But I don't know when that happened.
Harsh. You should get a little mini one, just to put on your shoulder for the show.
I might not. I probably won't put a tree up in here this year. Actually, I'll probably have one downstairs, but because I'm over my Christmas break, I'm planning on digging out the office. Like part of the plan is to get everything out of here and give it a deep clean. So it's like putting a tree up is just going to be another thing to get out to sort out at the time. So,
well, we'll see what Santa brings. Moving on to next star of the week. We mentioned it. God of War Ragnarok is awesome. It's 100% winning some Game of the Years up and down the world. We'll, of course, discuss our very own Game of the Year come the end of December. And we, of course, will be covering the Game Awards right here on the channel. And we'd love for you guys to join us. And God of War Ragnarok will definitely be in that conversation. But this week...
No, it already is.
I mean, it is. Yeah, it's literally one of the nominations. God of War Ragnarok sells 5.1 million copies in its first week, becoming the fastest-selling first-party PlayStation game to date. That's right. Herman Hulst, PlayStation Studios head, shared the news on Twitter, thanking fans and congratulating God of War developer Sony Santa Monica for its amazing achievement. We already knew it was on track record, Richie, because it set the day one sales record in the UK when they released the numbers anyway, and then we knew last week it shifted 3.1 million copies in its first. The original game. This one beat its original game to sell 3.1 million copies in 3 days. No surprise. 5.1 million, and this is when we know video games are expensive, but if you do it right, the return is like, whoa. Yeah. So what's the game? 69, 70 pound times by 5.1 million.
I think this game was always destined to sell this well because the last one was such a great game.
Yeah,
it's like people play that game. Go, no, this God of War 2018 was something really special that we played, and it's like, so the next one was like, yep, I want that. Everyone's just like, yep, I want it. Give it to me. So yeah, and it lives up.
Like I'm just thinking of the maths of that. A £70, $70 game, 5.1 million copies. Going to be sitting on some sweet bonuses this Christmas. The guys over at Sony Santa Monica, and of course they'll be on to the next one. But yeah, no surprise there with God of War Ragnarok. The guys have been doing the rounds. We know the game director Eric Williams, who took over from Cory Barlog after the 2018 version of the game. He's been going around interviewing, podcasting, meeting everyone in the games industry to basically talk about the game, do spoiler casts and stuff. We're going to sit down and do a spoiler cast once Richie's wrapped up on it as well, and go a little bit more in depth about our thoughts and what we like, what we didn't like, and maybe what we want to see for the future of the franchise. We did it with Valhalla. It seems we only do spoiler casts, Richie, for Viking Norse-inspired video games. But
we might do some more going forward.
Well, the problem we've got is we don't get codes early, do we? So
we don't get codes early, and I play games at an incredibly slow pace. So it's like it's not great for like spoiler cast when it's almost 2 months after the game came out that we finally sit down and record.
Because we're just normies. We're just like you, our lovely viewers and listeners out there. We play things.
I don't have 40 hours a week to play video games. This is not my job.
That is what bugs me when I've been like, because there's a few of the gaming channels that I follow, and I wanted to listen to the spoiler casts, but I couldn't until I finished the game, and it annoys me to think there's content there from some of my favourite content creators, and I don't want to go into it at risk of spoilers. Obviously, spoiler cast ruining the game. But during one of the spoiler casts this week with Kind of Funny Games on their weekly PlayStation podcast, they revealed that there is no potential DLC in line for God of War Ragnarok. He was asked about the potential DLC, the game director, and his reply was, I don't know, man. God of War Ragnarok is big. I think we put everything we had into it, so I wouldn't count on it. Now, Sony have got an interesting one. The 2018 God of War didn't have any DLC. However, lots of their other first-party titles have. We saw it with Spider-Man that had like this little mini 3-part. Was it something in the City Never Sleeps DLC? I think that was called. We saw it with Horizon Zero Dawn. That got some as well. Frozen Wilds. We haven't seen it with Forbidden West, however. The Last of Us obviously had its Left Behind content, so there's kind of a mixed bag of DLC content. After finishing God of War Ragnarok myself, I totally get what Eric's saying here, where he says, like, in terms of scope and size, they did everything in Ragnarok that they needed to be. And when I've finished it now and I'm doing my mop up, my clean up, and after you finish the game, again, just to reiterate, you're not finished the main story. Like, there is stuff to go and explore and see and new things to discover. However, going around the world after the story, there really isn't much more to tell. And I totally get what the game director's saying here, of saying, like, yeah, we put pretty much everything we needed to into this North saga. And Cory Barlog said 2 odd years ago, I think, that this was going to be a duology of titles. It was never meant to be a trilogy. And they knew whilst writing God of War 2018, they were like, oh shit, we're writing parts for the sequel here. So they actually trimmed stuff out of 2018 to make into the sequel. And I think if that's what your writing crew are all on the same page with, then
you have a vision, execute it.
Like, don't drag it. We saw what happened to the Hobbit films. Right?
See,
don't do a Hobbit. Don't go full Hobbit.
See, you mentioned Last of Us and the Left Behind DLC, but The Left Behind DLC kind of expanded on the story, but it's not necessary for the story.
Yeah.
But I mean, I haven't finished God of War Ragnarok, but if everything in there is necessary for the story, and I mean, it's clear that they haven't planned DLC. They haven't. It's not something that when they've been developing the game, they sat down and thought about, which I kind of like.
Yeah.
Just focus on making the best game you possibly can. That seems to be the ethos there.
Yeah.
Well, things like Ghost of Tsushima and Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah.
The DLC kind of came a bit later.
Yeah, Ishi Island for Ghost of Tsushima, yeah, so that did have some
but
too.
I think both of them games lend themselves a bit easier towards DLC, because with like Ghost of Tsushima, we'll just create a small island for the DLC. We'll write a storyline for that based on that, just expands the world a bit. God of War Ragnarok is a lot more linear than that game though, where Ghost of Tsushima and Horizon are quite open. So you can just take an aspect of that world in lore that you've got scribbled on the notepad anyway and expand it into a bit of a short, like maybe 5-hour narrative and go, there you go, we'll put it in the world.
Very true. Plus it was all single camera, like one shot. The whole game's one shot. So how you would then make it go into DLC kind of thing. I mean, the world's amazing. Like all the realms and the exploration, the combat and the enemy varieties is top notch. So maybe just give me something like there's so many characters in Norse mythology who we've probably not seen yet. Like, let me maybe be one of them and go do another adventure in Vanaheim or Alfheim or Helheim or something with someone else who we've not seen yet.
Yeah.
Why not? But God of War Ragnarok, so good. So good. We'll be talking about it in our Game of the Year discussion. Some of the games we won't be talking about, though, Richie, on PlayStation, are shovelware titles. Long have the trophy lists been hampered by shitty 99p games, 199 games that come with an easy platinum. I'm looking at you, my name is Mayo, where all you got to do is tap a button repeatedly on a screen to pop those trophies. And it's getting a bit messy. And I know I'm an absolute hypocrite, Richie, when I'm saying this, because I have the platinum for My Name is Mayo. Maybe My Name
How
is
many
Mayo
times?
3. Just the twice. Yeah, 1 and 3, I think.
Because wasn't it on Vita as well?
Oh, maybe.
So you might have doubled up.
I might have doubled up on it. I can't remember. But either way, I'm out of that loop now. I've recovered from that addiction. I actually only got My Name is Mayo 3 because of Jeff when he was on the show. And he said about it was like 79p in a sale. And I was like, fuck, for 79p, that's an easy one. But
I'd rather have the 79p.
I felt dirty when I did it. But I did it anyway, and I regret it. But either way, Sony are clamping down on it. The PlayStation Store's been awash with it, but it's actually getting to a point now, though, Richie, where some of these games, all they're doing is reskinning the game and giving it a different title. So they're not even putting any effort to make it. It's basically just described as this is an easy platinum game. Like some puzzle games, Fragments of Midnight and stuff. Like some of them actually have a decent game to them. Like it might be a basic game, like just a puzzle jumper or something, Flappy Bird-esque. But it's still there's still a game there. Whereas we're getting to a point now, if you're just tapping a button 1,000 times to unlock a platinum trophy, it devalues its platinum trophy.
I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with having an easy platinum, a game that's just inherently quite a simple game.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're just producing shovelware just for the sake of getting another £1 game on the store, so because you've got a platinum, people will buy it.
Mm-hmm.
It's cheap from the developers. It's not good for consumers because it just populates a store with rubbish. That is it's literally no different. As you mentioned, some of this stuff is just a reskin or it's just a palette swap in some cases. It's not like you've come up with a simple idea. Okay, here you go. He's a small game. Mm-hmm. It's just like now the jar of mayo is a jar of it's now ketchup.
Yeah, well, I think what's kind of tipped it over the edge. There's a game literally called Press X for Trophies.
Yeah.
And
there you go.
It's okay, so now they're not even trying to hide behind the fact that it's there. That's what they're doing.
They think there could be some links to PlayStation Stars about in this, with the potential trophy hunting being linked into PlayStation Stars and potential monetary rewards for in-game stuff in-store vouchers and things are potentially available? Do you think they want to get rid of like too much shovelware so people don't go, if someone goes, hey, if PlayStation go, he gets so many star points or however it works for a platinum, you don't get people getting thousands of points because they've just bought the crappiest games out there.
Absolutely. I think if they're trying to reward their most hardcore of hardcore gamers for playing their games right full through to completion, and they want to reward them, whether that is through the stars system or it's a monetary gain, if people are out here just buying 7 copies of a click here to win your trophy, and then they're doing the Japanese variant and the European variant and the North American variant and then the Vita variant, it's kind of like...
I don't
why?
fully get that attitude, because like when I look back at my trophy lists on PlayStation, the platinums I've got, I can take pride in them. Like, I can go back and go, these experiences I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Where if it was just like, I've got hundreds of platinum trophies, but all of them in terrible games, that I've just spent an evening just spamming X on a controller.
What are we doing there, Richie?
Just spamming X.
All right, your hands were off camera there when you were showing us that.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
If I'm just spamming X.
But it's like, you just... At some point, it's like, what are you doing this for? What is the purpose?
And I think
is it just to get that rush when you see the thing?
It is.
Pings,
it's
like...
the trophy. It's the satisfaction of the just seeing it pop. And I get it. Like, we get it. We like our trophies. We like our platinum trophies. So it is almost like easy way. But I've been there. I've done it. It can be an addiction, and I totally get it. At like the cheaper rate, why wouldn't you want more trophies for less money and less effort? But it does devalue the whole thing. So PlayStation look to be clamping down on it, and they're doing that by essentially there was a anonymous source sent basically a proof of policy change that Sony sent out to all the developers, to people who make like these games, and said, look, on the report it has screenshots of a letter that essentially said, it needs to if they are found foul of spam releases, copy and paste software, things that deter gameplay. Or basically, they've given a list of definitions. The punishment will be restricted discoverability, only able to be discovered through a direct link, delisted from the PlayStation Store, content refused publication, and the developer account suspension or termination. So it does basically look like Sony is saying, like, look, if you're going to mess us around and mess our users around by just doing this copy and paste stuff, you won't be on our platform. Which I do think it needs to happen, because there's some probably genuine quality indie titles out there that get lost in a marketplace because the top sellers are these, because of trophy hunters who are just like flooding the marketplace with these 79p copy and paste easy platinum games, and the genuine quality indie games that our developers pour their heart and soul into gets buried, and it's a shame.
Yeah, that's it. It's and they're not saying you can't put a simplistic game in there. They seem to be focusing on, like, if you as a publisher are putting out the same game reskinned or slightly tweaked, but it's effectively the same game, and asking for another platinum, it's like, yeah, you're not having that. Mm-hmm. We will. I think that's it. It's just to stop like spamware, and a lot of these games are probably like someone might go in, spend a day reskinning the game and put it up there, and then make
enough money to do it again. That's the reality. Is it's because
but
these people now know
it harms the ecosystem as a whole, because, as you mentioned, indie games. There might be some indie games out there. There might be an indie game that just gets lost in the mix. Someone spent 5-10 years of their life working on this as a one-man band, doing everything, absolute passion project, and then it just gets overlooked because my name is Mail 4 is out, or Stroke the Turtle.
Stroke
2.
the Turtle.
There's literally a game called Stroke the Tortoise. Like,
yeah, again, like, I can see it from both sides, but I do think for the sake of the library and PlayStation curation, if they want to be known for quality titles, which they put many of them out first party, you need to keep your storefront tight with quality. And I think letting the leaks slowly come through, you end up find yourself swimming in easy platinums, and it does devalue your bronze, silver, gold, platinum point. Otherwise, yeah. Even just limit them to a gold. Guarantee you no one's playing them 79p games if they only go up to gold.
Yeah. That might be the way. It's like, maybe you do say, it's like, if it doesn't have at least 5 hours of content, you get it's a gold. You don't get a platinum.
Well, they used to have more limitations and restrictions on it. And they used to say, like, back in the day, if online-only games, so games that didn't have a physical copy, couldn't have platinum trophies, which is why if you go back in time, some of them don't. Far Cry Blood Dragon didn't have a platinum trophy.
Quite an archaic view, that one.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that wouldn't work today in today's world, but back then there was limitations on what was actually allowed to have a platinum trophy.
I would say so. Like a 5 hour, the game must be at least 5 hours long. If it's not, you can still apply to get a platinum trophy through like a different route, but it doesn't get an auto.
Yeah, like under review or something needs to look at it and be like,
yeah, it has to go to like another level of review. Because, like, know how many people are playing a game, like a My Name is Male game for, like, 5 hours just to get the trophy.
Yeah, absolutely. So, either way, let us know in the comments below if you are a trophy hunter and what you think PlayStation should do with these cheap, easy platinum games. Get rid of them completely, change them up a little bit, restrict their access. Let us know below. One thing I am hoping to learn more about is the long-rumoured Crash Bandicoot Wumpa League has seemingly leaked again. Footage of a prototype of Wumpa League, the long-rumoured multiplayer brawler set in the Crash Bandicoot universe, has been leaked online. Rumours of the game's existence, of course, began back in the summer when Windows Central covered speculation on the new game. Since then, Toys for Bob, the developers of the very well-received Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, teased their 18th game. And we very much, I think both of us are on the fence of it's going to be showcased at the Game Awards. Are we both on that?
It feels time.
Yeah, because we know Jeff gets along with the Crash Bandicoot teams because he's shown them off in the past at some of those other showcases. And it kind of seems fitting. So Game Awards, of course, 8th of December, right here on the channel. And prototype was apparently leaked by YouTuber Liam Robinson. In fact, he showed off some clips, snippets of like concept art, and a very, very brief piece of pre-alpha gameplay where nothing had textures. It was all like the hitboxes and stuff running in the background. It didn't really give anything about the game other than it looked like more kind of Crash Bandicoot running around as Dingodile in the gameplay. You can see the controller being used as a platform to move around the area. There was other character models mixed in with some different abilities for each character. Nothing really you could see of merit towards the game. As a Crash Bandicoot fan, I don't really know how I feel about this Wumpa League brawler that they're talking about. I just feel like it's a direction that I would rather not see the franchise go in. I just want more traditional Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, it feels like they're trying to go like the Mario route again. Since like they've basically relaunched Crash with the Insane Trilogy and then Crash 4.
And Team Racing.
Now they're going I was going to go on to Team Racing like, okay, let's get CTR back. Now we'll get some of the more partier games back. And so I don't know, I'm okay. I'm okay with it. Like I don't think we need a new Crash every year. But if they want to bring out a new Crash every year, you do a different, like you do the Mario thing. You do like, okay, this is going to be Crash 5 one year, then it's going to be Wumpa League, then we're going to do another Crash Team Race, and then maybe we'll bring back Crash Bash, and you just like mix up the format. So maybe you get a main series game every 3-4 years.
Yeah, definitely. Wumpa League, yeah, I kind of do feel like they would have been received better if they'd have just done Crash Bash.
Leaking.
If they'd just done Crash Bash now, because we had the trilogy remake, then they went and made Crash Team Racing, then we had Spyro in between that, and then we had Crash 4. I feel like going back maybe to that nostalgia well that one last time for a game that people know.
How many Crash Bashes was there?
Just the one.
Just the one?
Yeah.
Yeah, they could just do a kind of a remake plus.
Yeah, Crash.
So we're going to remake the game remake the original game, but we're going to also add more content to it.
Yeah, Crash Bash Deluxe or Crash Bash Insanity or whatever word. Yeah, Crash Bash was the first one that wasn't made by Naughty Dog. So 1, 2, 3, Team Racing. Then it was handed over to various other people, and that's at some point when people said it started to decline in quality.
Vicarious other people.
Vicarious other people. Yeah, indeed. If it's revealed at the Game Awards, no surprise, but we just want to get that news in there for you guys at home. Final few stories of the week we just want to quickly cover here. Rainbow Six Siege. We've been talking about this game for so long. Actually, 3 years now, Richie, we've been talking about Rainbow Six Siege. It's finally getting crossplay, and cross progression. Coming to console in December. We don't have a set date for December. Sorry, we do, yeah. Rainbow Six Siege, December 6th. Great for Stadia players. You can finally hook up and connect to your progression across all platforms. We joke, of course. Rainbow Six Siege, constant support for years now. They must be going into year 7, 8?
Something like
in
that,
2023, which is insane. But it means finally all of your year's worth of content, rank, etc., can carry now across between Xbox and PlayStation consoles whilst using your Ubisoft Connect account. Again, you will be kept separate from PC and streaming platforms. So there will be that delineation there because of like the nature of the as we found out when we used to play online. If we'd go in with a PC crew, we just got our asses handed to us because mouse and keyboard pros are just way better.
Yeah, it is just a faster. I know some people, whether you prefer controller or mouse and keyboard, I don't care. I enjoy both, but mouse and keyboard does have a distinct advantage in terms of like the speed. December the 1st, 2015, it came out.
Damn, that game's old. That was probably when I bought The Witcher 3 Game of the Year edition on Black Friday. But speaking of speed, Richie, our final story from the week comes from the world of Need for Speed, which, of course, Need for Speed Unbound is due out imminently. And I don't think anyone really cares about it. That's just from my own. That's from my own take. As a Need for Speed fan, December 2nd, Richie, is next Friday. I don't hear any buzz around this game whatsoever. However, their social media team haven't done themselves any favours, and I wanted to round up with this funny little story. Over on Twitter, social media is an interesting thing. You just have to look at Elon Musk and Twitter and stuff right now to see it's an odd thing. For some reason, the Need for Speed official Twitter account have had to come out and apologise this week. I don't know if you saw this through the week, but I'll read straight from their Twitter account. We admit we got a bit caught up in the hype for launch, and some of our recent social media replies crossed the line. To those fans we upset, we apologise. We will do better. See you here next week. So on the imminent launch of their brand new game, whoever's in charge of the Need for Speed Twitter account seemed to get a little bit sassy with some replies for one of their games. And essentially, they tweeted out and someone replied to them saying, hold on. It was about early access, basically. Someone tweeted out and said, Need for Speed tweeted out and said, early access 3 days early. You know, EA do it with FIFA and stuff, don't they? Where you pay more money, you get the game 3 days early, which is a shitty practice. Like,
it's a practice that personally, it doesn't bother me because I'm not playing competitively or anything, but it's like, I just don't know why you want to pay more money to get the game early. Just especially when it's not like weeks early, it's like it's literally usually a couple of
3
days.
days. Like, 3 days is the standard. Yeah.
I'll wait. I can wait.
See, I feel like younger Chris back in the day. If someone said you could get FIFA before the midnight launch thing, just 3 days early, I think I would have been all over that.
Yeah, but if you had when it used to be midnight launch and you had to go get a physical copy of the game, it's a very different story. That's now true. You can just download it. You're not stood outside the shop at midnight waiting, hoping they've got enough stock. That's
true. But back to the tweets. So Kylo Zen 0, in fact, replied saying, hold on, what did we ask for and what did you listen exactly to pay more to get 3 days early access? The official account replied, a gameplay video, ? 3-day early access was always there. Reading is fundamental. To which he replied, right, charging extra to your loyal fan base to play 3 days early isn't really cool and a bit exploitive. Customer relations is fundamental. To which the official account replied, Milkshake brain.
What?
Milkshake brain. So then he replied saying Milkshake company. To which Need for Speed replied back saying, cry about it, bro. Shrug emoji. Or buy regular price. I don't care.
Now, at that point, if you're a professional social media person, you know you've dug a hole for yourself. You need to backtrack as quick as you possibly can.
It goes on. So the guy replies saying,
that's the problem.
Yeah, I was going to buy your game on release day, but due to the admin of this account, you've lost the sale. Well done. Stay edgy and keep being relevant for the 12-year-olds. You ain't half as cool as you think, Chief. You're an embarrassment and unprofessional. To which they replied, I'm not reading all that. Sorry that happened to you, or congratulations. Which, not being the customer, I can see the humour in this. It is a funny exchange. It gave me a little chuckle when I read through it.
It's a funny exchange, but if I was an executive at EA, I would be hitting the fucking roof.
Yes. and that's where I can see the humour in it, but the humour is more in just how sad the whole situation is. I think it's funny because it didn't happen to us.
It's funny from an outside point of view, but in the end of the day, this is a professional person from a verified account on the eve of a game launch being incredibly unprofessional
towards their potential customers.
They're straight up insulting the customer.
Yeah.
And then dismissing like concerns as they put forward.
Yeah, completely, absolutely agree with you on that. I think any professional entity representing a company that has consumers, paying customers, you have, I think, a right to hold up to certain standards. And I think professionalism and kindness and courtesy should be at the core fundamentals of that. Whether it's on social media or in person, being friendly and polite should always be the key thing. And yeah, like you said, disrespecting them, even though he's not swearing at them and stuff, but just being dismissive of their concerns.
It's Milkshake brain. That's where I went wrong.
Yeah.
Before then,
wrong at Milkshake brain.
Before then, like gameplay video, free daily access was always there. Reading is fundamental. It's not great.
I'd say the reading is fundamental part's almost like you're almost getting like
that, you've arguably already stepped over the line there.
Yeah.
But you can walk back. Milkshake brain's like it's just a straight up insult.
Yeah. To shit insult that as well.
Yeah, it's like why if you're a professional, we can just have to assume here that whoever tweeted this is a professional person working for EA, working in social media. Mm-hmm. This is their job, and they thought that was an appropriate response.
Yeah, that someone got paid to be at work that day and reply.
Probably not for much longer.
Cry about it, bro. As well.
It sounds like this is coming from like a 12-year-old. It really does. Like.
I mean, that is the problem, isn't it? I get social media, and some companies try and be a bit edgy. Some lean into the humour. We saw the success.
There's nothing wrong with putting a bit of personality in there.
Not at all. Like, we've seen Fall Guys. Fall Guys' account was fantastically funny, what the stuff were they doing.
Sonic the Hedgehog?
Yeah. Famously for it. But I don't think...
it like when they just kept making Sonic's legs longer?
Yeah. And again, I get that. And we try and do that with ours as well. Like our Helix Cloud Game account, it has that bit of humour in it we try and get across. When we talk about live streams, throw a pun in there, play on words, like... You have to give it some personality, but I would never in a million years insult someone from our main account. Like, whether it's a shitty insult like poo-poo head or something, or a genuine like, fuck you, dude. I might do it from my own personal account. But that's like separate from our business to some degree, and also we don't have bosses. We're our own business. We're content creators on YouTube. We don't have. There's no like CEO above us who's going to go, Richie, can you come see me in my office, please? Milkshake brain. Why are you calling our potential patrons and members Milkshake brain? Explain yourself, please. You're fired. Like that's not a problem we have. But you're right. This person is being paid to be a social media manager. Some money and probably has a degree in social media or something, has just failed, in my opinion.
Depending where this person is working in the world, if this person's working in the United States, they are fired. In the UK, the probably you'd have to. There's more
disciplinary action.
You'd have to go for disciplinary action. You're probably like, we're going to have to. Okay, you're not allowed to tweet anything. Put things in place. You're not allowed to tweet anything without getting the manager's approval or something like that. Yeah. This is going to be a final warning situation. It's a bit more complicated over here. You can't just fire someone because you don't like them.
Yeah.
But like, I think I could see like in the US, them just like the boss going, Jim, yeah. What the hell? Yeah, pack your stuff. You're gone.
You fucking milkshake brain. Get out of my...
Jim, you're the milkshake brain.
Hey, I tell you why you wouldn't get that at McDonald's, because the machine would be broken. That's so bad.
I just don't get...
I know, it's just a daft... It's a daft back and forth, but I thought it was a funny one to end on either way. But, ladies and gentlemen, that has been it for episode number 24 of Talking the PS, your weekly PlayStation show, where we round up all of the weekly PlayStation news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/Helix Cloud Games. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Of course, don't forget to check out the rest of the channel. More importantly, the CloudQuest episode that got absolutely shafted by the YouTube algorithm this week and didn't send out notifications. It was a great show. We broke down Amazon Luna and how they could be following in the footsteps of the doomed Google Stadia. Are they part of the same cloud coin? Go check it out. It's available now. And of course, there will be another episode of CloudQuest that's available for our Helix Heroes right this minute. You can go check it out, where we dive into who could be the next big player in the cloud gaming world.
Could it be you?
No, it's Milkshake Brain over there. Thank you again to our new Helix Heroes, Edward, Jeffrey, and Doc Holliday. You've just joined. You've become patrons, so you can actually get CloudQuest right now because you are one of our Helix Heroes. Just like 50 of you do, support the channel from as little as 99p for us to bring you better quality content every single week right here on the channel. XPass is still up if you didn't check it out yesterday. All the Xbox news is broken down over on the green side of things. We've got a live stream this week. Richie, are we jumping into Battlefield this week? Is that still the plan? I'm down for it.
Yep, I think so.
Sweet. This Thursday.
Unfortunately, this last week none of us were available to stream, unfortunately, so we've pushed it back a week. It happens. It does. We had adult stuff to do. You were the other side of the country. Rob was stuck with work, and I went for a run.
To get away from it all. I can't deal with this right now. I can't deal with installing a game on my console. We should point out, we're well aware that Battlefield isn't cloud, frustratingly enough. But I think for the sake of the channel, we might even branch out in the new year into more non-cloud related things. Because I think most of our audience now, especially if you've made it to 1 hour and 6 minutes into our weekly PlayStation podcast, you've probably picked up a Series S or have a PlayStation at this point. So what are you going to do? Go where the games are, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's been it for episode 24. Thank you for tuning in. My name's been Chris.
I've been Richie.
We've been Helix Cloud Games. Have a great week, everyone. Take care. We'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.
Milkshake brain.
Milkshake brings all your brains to your heart.